I want to know about some of the dominoes that fell earlier on in your life, like some of the smaller dominoes at the start that led the way to what you're doing now.
Yeah. And once again, yeah, man, I'm excited to be on the podcast again. This is perfect because now I'm gonna get better at telling my story, right? I get to do it twice. Awesome. So
Hell yeah.
because I've done the same thing for the listeners out there. I've recorded several podcasts with different guests and have lost the audio, and it's the worst feeling. So I feel you, bro. But yeah, I've always been intrigued by entrepreneurship. I absolutely love it. It's my passion. Looking back, I think kind of what started it, like one of those first dominoes that fell that gave me that momentum. In school, what we did, I remember it was fourth grade. Okay, if we like did our homework and if we behaved well, our teacher would pay us with Monopoly money. Okay, so we did that, and I saved up all my money because at the end of the year, we had a big store. So we could open up our own store in like the big lunchroom, or we could go just buy from other people's stores, candy and whatever they're selling. And I thought, you know what? Like my dad kind of mentored me and he said, "Hey, like you could just outdo everyone and make the best store there." And I was like, "Okay, let's do it." So I actually got a popcorn machine, sold popcorn, which is a huge hit, right? But it was cool because my store was like so popular that I actually went out and I started buying other stores from other kids. Not just buying their
No
candy, but buying
way.
their entire
Yeah.
stores and just getting all their inventory. So funny. And this is all in one day, like super small scale, but the lessons are still
Playing
there.
real life Monopoly.
Yeah, for real. So that was kind of like my first experience with business. And then I got more into all kinds of stuff. Like I started buying and selling like these little baseball necklaces. I'd order them from China and sell them to other baseball players when I was 12. But that was really the first one that got it going for me.
What was like your mindset back then?
So my mindset was I don't want to work for someone. I wanted to be my own boss and I wanted to make money. And if you're young, you can't really go out and get a job and make money, right? So you got to find ways to be creative because I wanted to buy freedom and I wanted to buy things that I wanted, right? And that was kind of the beginning. And now the motivation's different. But really, what motivated me was seeing like, holy crap, like I can put together a business and offer a product, and I can actually get paid to do that. Like that's so cool. So,
Yeah. What's your motivation now?
so this is something that inspires me every single day. Okay, so it's called memento mori, and it's Latin for remember death. So here's kind of a little story that I can share with the listeners. So believe it or not, I've actually had four different heart surgeries. Crazy. So when I was about 14, I was sitting in class one day and I dropped my pen on the floor and I bent over to pick up my pen and my heart started to flutter super, super fast to where I almost passed out and my vision was starting to blur. Luckily, it stopped and I thought, what the heck? Maybe I took too much pre workout this morning or something's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was like so scared. And then it happened again and I thought, you know what? This is something pretty serious. I need to go to the doctor. Went to the doctor. They said, hey, you were born with this disease called Wolff Parkinson's White syndrome. It's where I was born with an extra electrical pathway in my heart that misfires and causes that rapid heartbeat. So they said, okay, we need to go in and burn the part of your heart that's misfiring. And at 14 years old, dude, I was so scared. So they took me in and we did the surgery and it went great. And I recovered. And that's actually when I started the podcast, funny enough, laying in bed recovering, the psychology of
Yeah.
success. Because I wanted to find a way to turn that obstacle into an opportunity. But anyways, like long story short, like my heart stuff came back, had another surgery, came back, had another surgery, still didn't fix it. So I had a fourth surgery. And, I've been fine ever since. That was like my senior year of high school. But here's
Yeah.
kind of what motivated me and what my whole perspective changed back to the memento mori, remember death. Okay, because I realized like, holy crap, like my life could be taken at any time. And like today is a literal gift from God. So I need to give my greatest gifts and greatest service to the world while I'm here on this earth. So what changed was I realized that life is so limited. And that whole Latin phrase, memento mori, remember death, motivates me. Like there's even I have it sitting on my dresser over here. It's this painting of a skeleton. And it's basically this reminder of memento mori. And I see it every day. And it fires me up because I know that I have big goals and I can't procrastinate. I can't push it off. I got to do it today because today is really all that we have.
Hell yeah, man. Well, I love that you have that mentality of making the most of things when they just don't really go your way. Kind of like what happened with your heart. Why do you think you had that mindset so early on when you were like 14?
Huh. So really that came from a mentor of mine by the name of Justin Keat. So I learned that from him while a lot of that was happening. And he, funny enough, he's my high school principal. And he is a big time entrepreneur as well. He owns a big software company that he created. But what
That's
would
sick.
happen is like, long story short, like he saw that I was buying and selling cars on Facebook because he saw my Tacoma for sale. He's like, "Oh, I want a Tacoma." So he clicked on it and saw that it was me. He's like, "Wait, that kid goes to my school." And he clicked on my page and he saw that I was doing the podcast and running businesses. He's like, "Dude, like I love this type of stuff too. I got to meet this kid." So he comes down to my class one day and literally pulls me out of class, and I go down to his office and we literally sit there for 2 hours, kid you not, talking about
No.
business and different self-development books. So it kind of turned into a tradition where I went down to his office like once or twice a week, skipped out on math class. He didn't care because we talked about real world stuff, about
Yeah.
business, entrepreneurship, like, and that's when he taught me memento mori and a lot of the other things. So mentors have been a huge, huge part of my life.
That's that's awesome. Yeah. And is he still the principal of the school or is he just like doing business now?
Yeah, so he's still the principal, and we actually use his software for bin blasters, and he is also a member of my mastermind. So actually, our last mastermind meetup, we did it at the high school. It was nice.
Oh hell yeah. Well, so something that I really wanted to talk to you about was flipping cars because I think that's really cool. And it's such a good way to make money. Like one of my friends who does it, I think he sometimes makes like $1,000 an hour or something insane like that. Like I just know it's amazing money. So what advice would you have to me and some of the people listening who are interested in flipping cars but don't really know where to start?
Yeah, great question. So buying and selling cars, it's really hard, and it takes time to learn the market. And I've gotten out of it, but I'm happy to share like what I learned over the
Yeah.
3 4 years that I was doing it. So really, like if you're just getting into it, you got to save up some money, some capital, of course. But go on like Facebook Marketplace or whatever like classifieds app you use, and just shoot a bunch of lowball offers at people. Like I always go like 2 or 3 grand under what they're listed, because you'll find that like in the rarity, you'll find someone that needs to get rid of that car super fast. Maybe they're about to move or they're frantic about it. So if you have that
Mhm.
money saved up, you can go there. But once before you go, you want to do some research. Like you want to look up the Carfax, like get all the history by getting the VIN, then you put it on Carfax. You run the Carfax report. You want to avoid cars that have frame damage or that have a lot of accidents. Like I've lost a lot of money buying cars with frame
Yeah.
damage or accidents, but now I've learned exactly what to avoid, right? So really, it starts with saving up the money and then looking on those websites, but being patient, like throwing a lot of offers out there, but understanding that someone's gonna bite over time for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And it's like if you send maybe 100 lowballs to people, most people, like 97 or 98% of people, are probably gonna say no. But there's always gonna be that one or two people who do end up saying yes. And you might like get you might just get you might just get like super lucky. And you really never know. So I guess it's always good just to send that offer out if you see a car you might like, even if the person might not accept. Because
Oh,
it
all
takes
day.
2 seconds to do that.
Mhm. Yeah, and if you send out enough out there, you're gonna get people that respond, and that's really where the patience pays off. And you just keep doing that and repeating, and then you save up more and more capital to be able to get nicer and nicer cars to where you have more of a margin. But really, like I found that the nicer cars, like I flipped a couple Tacomas,
Yeah.
but I've realized that even if you're putting up that much more money, the margins are about the same as buying like a $5,000 car and selling it for seven, you know? So it doesn't quite make sense, like for the deals that I've done, buying the more expensive cars. but rather flipping a couple smaller ones and making the same amount of money.
That totally makes sense. So do you think car flipping is something that you have to know a lot about cars to get into, or can you go into it like knowing nothing about cars?
So for me personally, like I know nothing about how cars work. Like I'm
Yeah.
not good at all with that. But what you do need to be good at is analyzing the numbers and having a solid mechanic that you can go to and say, hey, like what would this look like for you to fix? How much would it cost? And you got to break it all down in a spreadsheet. Okay, it's going to cost me $6,000 to buy the car. It's going to be $500 to fly down and get it. It's going to be about another $2,000 to fix the engine that's completely ruined. So you got to understand like those type of numbers, or at least have the resources to pull from to get those numbers. But ultimately, like you don't need to know how a car works. Like you can hire like more props to you if you can like fix it yourself and do that work because you'll make more money. But my specialty is just finding the good deals. So you really don't need to be an expert to get into it.
Oh yeah. Well, that's definitely gonna be something that I'm gonna look into, cause yeah, it can be some crazy money. So about your business Bin Blasters, you you bought the franchise for 40,000, was it?
30.
30,000, yeah. What made you want to take such a big risk in like buying into the franchise?
Yeah, great question. So I saw how much potential it had because I didn't see anyone else that had any kind of like garbage can cleaning presence here in St. George. But the
Yeah,
model was proven and tested, right? So the founder of Bin Blasters, like franchising, is actually my dad, Steve Terry, and his partner, Casey Evertson. And they had, by the time we bought our franchise, my brother Kyler and I,
yeah.
they had three other locations. And so we saw what they were doing and we had the confidence to say, okay, Kyler and I can take this on and we think we could do it. Because we were looking, it's such a cool model because it's subscription based.
Yeah.
So yeah, like you put up the investment, but over time you can pay that off to where you have a couple hundred customers paying you 30 or $45 every month or every quarter, and you just grow and grow and grow that customer base until you can get all this income consistently every single month. So right now we're in the growth stages to where we're getting it to that point, which is a ton of work. It's getting out there cleaning trash cans every single day. Like right now, I have a driver, and for a
Yeah.
while, I was actually out there cleaning the cans. Like last week, I literally cleaned a can, and it had two dead rats inside. It was
Oh shit.
disgusting.
Yeah.
Yeah, like oh my gosh, dude. Like I looked in there and I was like, no way. So I had to dump it, and the rats came out onto the truck, and I had to sanitize it, dude, because it's a huge need. Because if you got crap like that in your trash can and your family's going around the cans, like they're gonna get sick. So we come in and we blast it with 200-degree water and absolutely kill all the bugs and the bacteria, and then leave it with a lavender air freshener. But this is like professionally done. Like this is a truck that literally
Yeah.
grabs the cans, lifts them upside down, and sprays them with that boiling hot water. So now I have a new role. I'm not like I still own this location, but now I'm working with Bin Blasters Corporate to where I'm selling other franchises. So I'm on calls all day with people that see our videos on TikTok or Instagram, and they're like, hey, I want to get into this business and become a franchisee. So I work with them, and I'm basically their success coach. And I walk through the process, and they buy a franchise. In fact, I was just talking. I'm going up today to go sign paperwork to close a franchise. And then what will happen is when that franchisee signs, he'll be mine and I'll train him. I'll be his success coach. And I have a whole online course that I've created that teaches other people how to run a successful bin blasters. And I'll call them every single week. I'll fly to their location and train them for a week. So we basically are with them the whole entire time. And that's the benefit of a franchise. That's what you get with the fee. You get a proven model that you can follow, and we tell you exactly what you need to do to create
Yeah.
success. Whereas, like when I was doing it, we didn't quite know what we were doing. The franchise was still super new, and we just had to figure everything out. Whereas now we have a proven process of how to approach HOAs, how to get connected with schools, how to work with social media influencers, Facebook ads, like all this stuff we have laid out for them in a roadmap. It's pretty nice.
Yeah, so I think like people see your Instagram and then they see all the success you're having with bin blasters. And people probably see that and then think, oh, it must be so easy to do that. But I want to know what's the stuff that you don't see on social media? The stuff that isn't really too sexy.
Dude, that is such a good question. I need to steal that for my podcast because I talk about that all the time on my social media. I'm like, look, like, well, I had a buddy tell me the other day, is like, I love watching your stories because your
Yeah.
stories are like what's really happening in business. Like, literally, like the other day outside of that rat story, I opened a garbage can and it had a whole flipping ecosystem inside of it, dude. It had all these maggots and flies like flying out. So I literally took a video and said, look, like, it's 9 o'clock at night right now. I'm completely dead. And I just opened this trash can and it has thousands of maggots in it and they're getting sprayed all over, like, disgusting. Because I like to remind my followers that business is so hard. It is so hard. And you only see the stuff on the outside, but you don't see the late nights. You don't see the dead rats. You don't see all the maggots getting sprayed in your face. You don't see the equipment that breaks down and you're stressing trying to figure out how to clean customers' garbage cans or else they're going to get pissed and cancel. Like, there's so much more behind the scenes. So that's my goal, like with my podcast and with my branding, is to share like the reality of it with other young hustlers, to show them that it's really it's so hard and it's such a grind, but you just got to keep going.
Yeah, that's really good because so many people they just show the highlights and they just show them being super successful, but never and any of the hard stuff that you actually have to go through. And yesterday, I was working for maybe like 12, 13 hours. It was like 9 p.m. I was dead. I think I had like 600 calories the whole day. And I was just out in the rain cleaning people's cars. And it's like this is the stuff that you have to go through if you want to run some kind of successful business. Like things are going to be hard at the start. And you're gonna have situations like opening up the garbage can and seeing a bunch of maggots, but you just have to push through it, and that's how you'll get to the level where you'll actually be successful. And I think like a much better question to ask yourself than like what do I love is what am I willing to struggle for? And like choosing to do the things that you're you're willing to struggle to get the results rather than the things that you just enjoy doing.
Yeah, dude, it's such a grind, and you got to have like a deeper purpose, right? You got to
Yeah,
understand, like you're saying, like, what's your why? Like, why am I getting up every single day to go out and clean cars in the rain? And I think you and I are similar, that we're looking for that freedom, the freedom one day to be able to have the time, money, and resources to do like what we want when we want, and to serve the people that we need to serve. And so I try to remind myself that exact thing on the hard days. Like, look, there's a bigger picture, and there's a lot more out there. You just got to stay patient, stay in the grind.
exactly. I was on a podcast earlier today with this guy called Evan Carmichael, and something that he said was that your purpose comes from your pain. And like whatever you find purpose in that because of something that you found pain in previously. Like like for example, if you struggled as a young entrepreneur, then you'd find purpose in helping young entrepreneurs who are going through struggle. So I'm just wondering, like I know what your purpose is, but what's your pain that's causing that purpose?
Ooh, what's my pain that's causing my purpose? Really, like, I think it's the pain of untapped potential. Okay, because like I'm super big on actualizing my infinite potential that we all have inside of us, that's from God, to actualize that, right?
Yeah.
And so I think part of the pain that I have inside is when I'm not actualizing the potential, like the person that I could be right now. And that doesn't mean we need to be perfect, but we all have a potential that's oftentimes we're coming up short on. But the times that we're living up to that potential, when we close the gap of who we actually are and who we could be right now in this moment, that's where we find that true happiness and fulfillment. So part of that pain, I feel it when we have a bigger gap. So what I do, I follow what's called my fundamentals every single day to
Yeah.
close that gap. That's eating, moving, sleeping. Okay, I like to get 8 hours of sleep. My food, I like to feed my body with food that's going to actually energize it. I'm working on it, but it makes a huge difference. And then energy, I got to move my body. I got to work out every morning. I got to meditate, and I follow this whole protocol. But with the fundamentals, they're basic and they're boring, just like in baseball or sports. Like you're doing the fundamentals, like fielding ground balls, shooting free throws. You do those every single day and they get boring. But the truly great athletes, they learn to love the fundamentals and absolutely dominate them because they understand that's where true growth comes from. So if we take that same model into our life and dominate the fundamentals of our life, of closing, that'll help us close the gap. That's where we can get true fulfillment from and get rid of that pain or that almost emptiness that we feel at times, right? So that's what I've found works for me.
Yeah, that that's so true. And I think a lot of people are caught up in like thinking too big, I guess. And trying to take these huge leaps rather than just taking slow and incremental steps to the place that they want to be. And I think like a lesson that I've really learned lately is that you got to just trust the process. And as cliche as that sounds, it's true. Like just take the small steps that you know are going to get you to that goal, rather than always always trying to do these huge things. So
Yes, and that
yeah,
reminds me, like when we set goals, a lot of times we get frustrated when we don't hit the goals. Okay, and
yeah,
here's something that has helped me like really come to understand the process and be patient, like you're saying. So it's another Latin phrase that I absolutely love, and it's Dio volente. It means God
oh yeah,
willing. Okay, so if you imagine like an archer, if I'm aiming an arrow at a target, it's 100 yards away, and I pull back and I shoot that arrow, it's going to be flying in the air, but I can't control if the wind is going to push it out of the way. I can't control if the wind's going to blow it down. I can't control if a deer is going to jump in front of it and completely stop the arrow. But what I can control is where I'm aiming at my target and what I do to prepare to aim. So we always want to have that clause when we set goals that, okay, yeah, I'm going to do my best to aim for my target, but ultimately the outcome oftentimes is out of my control. But I'm going to control what I can do. I'm going to aim correctly. I'm going to do my fundamentals. I'm going to plan it out. But once I release that arrow, I've got to be happy with the process that I've put in the work to shoot the arrow as straight as I can. But God willing, wherever it lands, it lands. But really, the growth and the fulfillment comes from the preparation, from actually doing the little things every single day, the process. Totally true.
that's so true. Yeah, great way to put it. So who's the person that you're trying to become?
The person I'm trying to become, that's a great question. For me, I'm very religious. So the first person that comes to mind is Jesus Christ because really like looking back, like he is the reason why I am the person today. And I can get a lot more into that. But like more and really like everything I've learned in business or everything I've learned spiritually, I apply into business. And it 10x is my business and my relationships and everything. So I believe that there's like these eternal principles that if we follow them, we'll get very specific results and that they're from God. So I'm definitely trying to do my best to follow Christ every single day. That's where I really find fulfillment. As far as like a mentor that I'm trying to be like, I'd say Justin Prince, who it sounds like you're about to interview him, right?
Yeah, 4 days.
Yeah, awesome. So Justin is an absolute stud. You guys will love that episode with him, but he's generated over billions of dollars in revenue with his businesses. And it's cool because I've interviewed over 70 different entrepreneurs and professional athletes. And I've seen that sometimes their priorities get out of whack, right? Because they focus so much on business and they kind of lose out on their family life. Well, with Justin, I've seen that he is so good at balancing and just winning in all areas of his life. And he puts God first, right? That's his priority. And because of that, everything else works out in his life because he doesn't lose focus on what's important in his life. And I really emulate him for that. And I look up to him. So that's someone that I'm trying to be like as well. He's a stud.
Hell yeah, man. Yeah, that's sick. So, how has your relationship with God improved? Um, over the time that you've like been doing business, and like how how is like, or actually no, I think a better way to say it would be like how is it how has being in business improved your relationship with God?
Ooh, awesome question. So I've learned that really we're here on this earth to actualize our potential and to serve other people and help others do that same thing. And that's what I'm really
Right.
passionate about. Okay. And ultimately, it's to become more like Jesus Christ, right? And what I found business is just a tool to do that, to serve more and more people. For example, there's this huge like drive-through soda franchise. It's called Swig. Do they have them where you're at yet?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. So they're all over the place here in Utah. There's over 250 locations. And I know the founder. She's from here in St. George. I actually interviewed her on
Oh,
the
wow.
podcast.
That's
And
sick.
she's super spiritual as well. And she broke down on tears on my podcast talking about this very thing. Because she said because of her business, she has a model to where every October, everything she makes goes towards paying for cancer treatments for women with breast cancer. Because Nicole, she had breast cancer herself and couldn't really
Yeah.
afford it because she was a single mom. But now that she has this business model and she's making really good money, she's able to provide for other people and serve through business. And she wouldn't have the means to do that and to pay for 7 or 8 other women's cancer treatment if she didn't have this business that she set up and is making money from. So for me, in my mind, business just is a way to amplify the message that you're trying to share and to serve more and more people. It's just a tool to do that. And that's really what fires me up and what I've learned about God is that he wants us all to be successful, right? He wants us all to achieve our dreams and he's there like cheering us on. And business is just one of those avenues that I've taken to do exactly that. And he's there helping me every step of the way. It's amazing.
100%, man. So you said you did a podcast with that lady who owns Swig. That's that's really impressive. Like meeting someone who owns a business that's that big. How'd you do that? And like what could someone who's listening do to get in contact with like maybe someone who owns a business that like they really like?
Yeah, great question. So here's what I did. I don't know if this was specifically with Nicole with Swig, but here's the model that I usually take.
Yeah.
Um, I go to someone that I look up to on their Instagram and I see, okay, who are our mutual friends? Oh, perfect. It looks like Nicole knows Justin Prince and Kel Goodman and Trevor Cowley. These are all guys that I've had my podcast. So what I
Yeah.
do, I go to her messages and I say, "Hey Nicole, this is Kaden. I host the Psychology of Success, whatever." I just tell her about the podcast and I say, "Hey, I've had some awesome guests on the show," and then I list 4 or 5 of her mutual friends that we both know. Because in her mind, she's gonna read that and be like, "Dang, this kid has had some awesome people on that I know that I'm friends with. Like, oh, I should totally do an interview with him." He's just,
Mhm.
yeah, totally. You build that mutual connection, right? So you can, for the listeners at home, like you can do that same thing. Find a way to do that, whether it's taking them to lunch or hopping on a phone call. But you also want to find some way to make their life easier, to add value. So, for example, with
Great way to
Nicole,
put it.
yeah, with Nicole, I'm always thinking, okay, especially with the people I interview, like you did a perfect example today. Like I was so impressed. As soon as I got on, Samuel was like, "Hey, like, have you heard of like these online chats or online communities. And he told me all about it, and I'm looking into it for my mastermind, which is super helpful. It's being proactive like that. So I did the same thing with Nicole. I drove through and I was getting a soda and I saw her inside working, and I hopped out and I said, Nicole, like, how you doing? Like, so good to see you. Like, what if we did this? What if we make a video talking about your Save the Cups campaign where you donate for breast cancer? Make a video
Yeah.
talking about it with me, and we'll spread it all over my social media and get more people to come buy soda from you to save, to fundraise some more money. And she did it, and she absolutely loved it. And it really stood out to her because I was able to serve and add value to her without me needing to ask, like, okay, like, what can I do for you? Like, that's awesome to ask. But don't just ask them, but just do it. Just be proactive about helping them out.
Yeah, for sure. Something you said in the podcast that we did before was that successful people, they aren't really looking for like money or anything. They're looking mainly for fulfillment. And if you can find a way to make them feel fulfilled, then you've provided more value to them than like anyone else ever will. And what you said there really resonated with me.
Yeah, and something to add to that is like once you add the value, okay, then the mentor is probably going to give you some advice. Literally write that down and execute on what they tell you to do, and then go back a month later when you actually accomplish that goal and tell them exactly how you did it. Because then in their mind, they're like, holy crap, like this kid means business. He's not just asking me for advice, but he's doing it. He's putting it into action. And in their mind, if they see that, like, dang, like my advice actually works, like, okay. Yeah, it makes them want to share more and more. So I did that same thing with a couple other mentors where they give me very specific advice and they tell me I'll get a specific result, and I do it, get that result, and then I share it with them and say, bro, it works. Thank you so much. What else?
That
What else can I do?
yeah, that's really good. So, what's the most surprising piece of information that you've learned from interviewing all these people?
The most surprising, um, the most surprising to me is like over time. So I've done this the past 4 years. I started it in 2018, 2019. And the most surprising thing was like I saw that all these entrepreneurs follow these same principles, these same like keys to success, and it's all the same crap, which is like so
Yeah.
interesting to me. And they, a lot of them don't even know each other, but they all have the same habits, the same mindset. And so as I've been around them, I've just naturally cultivated those habits and mindsets. But I didn't realize that they're like all the same. Like they're all so similar. So I've realized that holy crap, like there's something to this. Like if they're all waking up and having solid routines, maybe there's something to that. If they all have a solid mentor and if they all add value to other people, maybe I need to start doing that too. If they're all doing it, why wouldn't I? So that's been a huge surprise that there's literally a model for success and you can learn from people and just duplicate it and copy it in your own life. It's that simple.
How have you done that? Like, how have you copied that model of success and like applied to your own life?
So I take little bits and pieces from different people's like routines and different things, but I have like a whole notebook as I'm interviewing. I'll take notes of things that I want
Yeah.
to do, and then I'll go and I'll implement those things. Right? So as I'm talking to people and as I'm reading books, like it's all these same principles, but I got to find a way to like make it relate to my life and have it apply. Because we all have like different ways of doing things, but at the end of the day, it's the same principle, right? So I like to take the time, and a big thing for me is planning. So when I have these goals and these new ideas, like it's one thing to like think about and say, yeah, I'm going to do that, but it's another thing to actually schedule it into your calendar. So I do that every single Sunday. I go through my whole week and I lay out exactly what I want to do, when I want to have free time, when I want to have friends time, family time, work time. It's all laid out in these little blocks. I still have flexibility, but say for example, like I want to have a habit of doing an ice bath every day. Like I'm
Yeah.
not just going to say I'm going to do that. I'm going to actually schedule it in. Okay, perfect. I'm going to stop working around 3, and then that's going to be my trigger. I'm going to habit stack it to doing an ice bath. It's doing stuff like that. Whereas I still have flexibility with it, but I have like the rough shell put together on Sunday. So
That's really good. And plan your days, uh, or yeah, plan your weeks, and even planning your days is something that can really change your life. But I think like especially planning your weeks though, like
Hmm.
that can completely change your life, and like it can skyrocket your productivity as well. So that's just a quick actionable step for everyone who's listening to this. If you don't do it already, plan out your plan out your week. Plan out your next week starting today, right now, and I guarantee you this is probably going to be the most productive week of your life.
All day, dude. I
So,
agree, and I can kind of like walk through like how I plan my week because it's like very specific. Like I like to go through and I look at the past week and I say, okay, like what went well and what didn't go as well. Okay, that's
yeah.
fine. And then I do like a week recap. And then I also write out my goals. So as I'm doing that, I'm in the right mindset. Like, okay, this is who I have been, this is who I could be, and then how am I gonna implement these goals into my week? And then I go through and I put a lot of I do it on Google Calendar and I
Yeah.
put in recurring events. So for example, like every Sunday from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m., I have a time block weekly planning, and that's just recurring. And those recurring events are incredible. If I have meetings every Monday and Friday morning, I have a meeting for bin blasters, and I schedule that in. But then I go through and I review. You know what? Like I really want to golf this week. Let's not just say I want to golf, but let's make it happen. So I go through and I'll put it in my calendar, and then I'll add my friends to that event, and I'll just add their email so they get a notification and they'll get a reminder when it happens. I do the same thing with my podcast so that it's all laid out because as you're doing that, you're living an intentional life, right? You're on
100%.
offense rather than defense. Like it's one thing, like you can plan your month, like that's kind of like too much, like too big picture. And if you plan your day, like you're almost like too late to like the day's already there. I still daily plan every day and we can get into that.
Mhm.
But the week is kind of like a good middle ground where you can get a solid amount of tasks put in. So I'll look at my to-do list. Like my top 3 things I need to do this week, I will schedule them in a very specific time. And it's kind of like for the weekly planning, it's more broad. But then for the daily planning, like you're talking about, either the night before or the morning of, I'll lay out exactly what I'm going to be doing and what projects I'm going to focus on during those times. And I'll follow up with people. Hey, we still good for lunch today? Still good for the podcast? Stuff like that. And it helps because then if you have a vision of what your life wants to be like, you're not going to get there unless you're intentional about it. Success is not going to chase you whatsoever. You have to be intentional about it. And weekly planning is how you do it.
For sure. And I find even though daily planning like it does work really well, like a day that you plan is always going to be 100 times better than a day where you just like go with the flow. But planning your week, I think it just makes it so like you it just makes your days a lot more intentional because what you're doing on those days is leading up to a greater goal, not like more of a short-term goal, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so tell me more about your mastermind. Like that sounds really cool, and I definitely want to make it down there sometime.
Yeah, yeah. So I saw that there's a huge need for younger hustlers that want to meet other hustlers, right? It's rare to find people that are probably listening to this podcast that are out setting goals and they want to create their own businesses that are young. So what I've done, I've had a lot of friends tell me that. So I thought, you know what, let's put everyone together in the same room. So that's what we do. It's called the Winner's Circle. We meet twice a month. Once a month, we have what's called a mentor meetup. So, for example, you're interviewing Justin Prince. We have a mentor meetup scheduled with him here soon, where we're going to go to his house and do like a goal setting activity where we're going to visualize and do like a goal touching because he has an incredible house. It's huge. So, we'll walk through it and think, okay, what can we do to create a life like this? And we'll sit down with Justin and actually ask him, how did you do this? What can we do? So we'll do that activity, like more hands-on stuff. Or Nicole Tanner with Swig. We'll sit down and we'll be sipping sodas with her and be like, hey, like, how did you grow this to 250 locations in 10 years? How did you do that? So we'll do that once a month. And also once a month, we do an inner circle meetup. So in a group of about 10 people, you get together and you mastermind together and you say, what issues do you have in your business? Okay, let's all solve it. What issue do you have? Okay, perfect. I know a guy that can help you. Okay, who else? Like you just talk, and it's so powerful because you use everyone's brain power and their connections to just 10x the whole group together. It's really powerful. And outside of that, we do like quarterly events to where we'll go for a whole day and all go golfing and rent an Airbnb and all get together and have some awesome food, guest speakers, stuff like that. But it's really all about actualizing our potential. That's the whole theme of the mastermind and the podcast. Visualize, optimize, actualize. Visualize, think about the person that you want to be, the goals you want to hit. Optimize, what things are you going to do every single day to hit that goal, what habits do you need to hit, what fundamentals are you going to set up every day with eating, moving, and sleeping, how are you going to get better, and then actualize. Then you're going to actualize your infinite potential moment to moment to moment following those steps. And the mastermind is just a facilitator to that here in Utah. So
Love it, man. And stuff like that can really change your life. Like, it's insane what being around a group of like-minded people can do for you. So, did you have any like fears or any limiting beliefs before starting up?
yeah, totally. I think the biggest limiting belief was I almost felt guilty for making money. And like I don't know what it was, but money almost had like a bad rap, especially in the community where I'm at. Almost like money's evil.
Yeah.
But Justin Prince, he actually helped me understand that no, like money is actually neutral. Like it doesn't have any meaning. It's just whatever the type of person you are, that's what money's going to be. If you're an evil person, yeah, you're going
Sorry.
to do evil things with that money. But if you're a good person, holy crap, money is just a tool to be able to serve more and more people. So really, money just amplifies the type of person that you already are. And really, like if you have a message that you want to spread and share with the world, money is just oxygen to be able to do that, right? Because Justin and I were talking about my mastermind and podcasts and how I can grow it. And he said, dude, like you got to find a way to monetize it so that you can fuel it and grow it through marketing and through getting more speakers. But you won't be able to do that by just doing it for free. Like you got to bring money in, and you do that by adding value. And then people say thank you by giving you thank you notes in the form of money. Like it's really that simple. And that kind of changed my mindset. Like, holy cow, like he's totally right. Like money's not good or bad. Like it's neutral. It's whatever you make it.
That's so true. That's such a good way to put it. Like you're trying to do great things with your money, and like you're trying to like help a bunch of people. So making more money is a great thing for you. It makes it so you can help more people. But then, of course, if you're like not really a good person and you don't have like good things planned to do with your money, then money isn't good. So like you said, it really is just whatever you make of it. I really like that perspective. Yeah. So, anyways, man, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I know you got to go in like a minute. So yeah, appreciate the talk, and yeah, fuck. What was I gonna say? My mind just blanked. I'm gonna edit this part out.
No, you're good.
Well, yeah, man. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, and I really appreciate having you on. If anyone is interested in checking out your mastermind, the link is going to be in the description. Go check it out, and also give them a follow on Instagram and check out the Psychology Success podcast. See you in the next
Yeah,
episode, guys. What's that?
appreciate your time, man. Appreciate your time. That was amazing, and thanks for your patience too, because I know it's frustrating when episodes get glitched out, especially with spilling coffee and tea. I've been there, man. So keep things rolling. I'm excited to hear the episode with Justin as well. So for the listeners, stay tuned for that.
Hell yeah, man. Well, I'll see you later, and Caden, hope you have a great day.
Thanks. You too. See ya.